Okay, today we're going to look at completing the last problem on this page that we're going to work on. We're going to skip this problem, and this one's 912. And after we do 912, I'm going to show you one more section, and we'll do an aligned section for that one. So as usual, we want to make sure on this one we follow the instructions, and that means we're going to be drawing the removed sections AA and AB. Right, so when you look at this drawing, we see that section AA is cutting through the side view and looking that direction, right? And section BB is the exact opposite. It's cutting through the side view and looking the other direction. So if you were to transfer those up here, right, they would look like so. And the reason we would transfer those up here is so we know on the top view, this would be the front, on the top view where these are. So we know, remember, we want to know what material we're cutting through, right? So in this area we're cutting through all this material and we're looking that way. In this area we're cutting through all this material and looking that way. So we're going to go ahead and start taking some of this information, and we're going to look at these in a different way because it's not going to be projected lines all the way down. We're going to have to take and we're going to have to break out section AA and put it over here. We're going to have to break out section BB and put it over here as well. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and take and we're going to transfer just the major outside lines, right? And the way we'll do that is we'll transfer this boundary down here. And these are called removed sections because they're pulled away, right? That's why they're not going to be in complete alignment. So that means what we've just transferred down there is the diameter, right? The representation of the diameter. And we're also going to transfer down the hidden lines that come from the top view. This one's already transferred down, but you can see those here. Now on this one we just want to transfer this hidden line down because we're not transferring this little keyway, right? When we look that way, we're pretending as though we're seeing everything in that direction. Okay, so these lines we just made represent these cylinders we've made. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the information, right, we're cutting through, and we're going to show the cutting plane line, right, the section line on this top view. And we'll show this one. But let's do section BB first, and then we'll come to AA. Alright, now on section BB, since we're going to take this information where it's being cut and we're going to apply it down here, right? Because when you cut through the side view or this top view, you're looking at the cylinder from the face over here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take that information of how wide that face is, right? And here it's about the width of my pencil. And I'm going to place that horizontally. Right? And that placement is going to look something like that. It's going to be that kind of a length because that length and this length are the same. Right? And just to clarify, the section is going to kind of look like this. It's going to be one cutout, right, which is that material, and then you're going to see the cylinder behind it. Right? And then there's of course the hidden lines. So you're just cutting through there looking at that cylinder. And the other one will be vice versa. It'll be a little bit smaller cut part but a bigger cylinder. So we're going to sketch that out. We've got the thickness here, right? The thickness is the size of my pen. And so that means it's going to look like that, right? That's the cut portion here. And then we're going to be looking at that cylinder. Well, the cylinder is that tall. And now what we have is the basic outline. We just need to draw what's being cut, what's hidden line, and what's solid. So we'll start with what's being cut. That's that thick portion of the metal here, that material. So we're going to outline that. And then we're going to hatch and show where that's being cut. And now we want to show that face, the face of the cylinder. And this is just sketching neatly, trying to use some of the same proportion. And so when you look at the cylinder, we'd have our hidden lines that represent the hole through the cylinder. And that's our section BB. Right now, section AA is going to be similar, except one thing we need to look at is when we're cutting through AA and we're pointing in that direction, the area we're cutting right here is slightly smaller than the cylinder. Right? So in other words, if we take the length of the cut area, which kind of goes to my first band here, we're going to see, or you'll guesstimate, that it's about that big, right? And really these thicknesses should be the same. So if we take those over, you're going to have an outline like that. And then we'll take the height of our cylinder, right? And keep those projected because this line, these ribs going across. And now we'll just darken what's being cut because we're looking at that side view. All we're drawing is the material we're cutting here and the face of that object there. So I'm going to darken in the outside. Now remember, that length right here is this length right there. Do our hatching. And then I'll create my outline. And I'll make my hidden lines. Okay. Now the last thing you want to show, we can't forget about this rib, right? This piece that's popped up. But since this is just a thin rib, right, or it's cutting through this rib, we're going to show it and we're just going to cut through it because it's not cutting along the rib, it's cutting against the rib. So we will show that cut through. And in order to do that, we'll take a look at where A is right here, right? And you can see that zone is where we're cutting through. So if we took that information and we transferred it over here, it would be something like that, right? Which means we'd have to get that to erase. We have to actually take and make this look like that. And then what you get from there is your basic outline. Shows you're cutting through the center rib. It also shows that this face continues a little bit to meet the outside, and you have section AA. Alright, now the next one we want to do, these are just sketches. We want to take a look at the next component, and we're going to do this column support. And to do this column support, we're going to make a true full section. And of course, when we do a full section, easiest thing for us to do is going to be, and what we may even do, we may actually take, and let's do a line section. I'll show you how to do an line section. And in order to do a line section, we're actually going to be taking, and since this object is radial, right, like basically we can copy this to there to here, we can do either a half section, right, which just shows this portion kind of cut out, right, or we could do an aligned section, which is sort of the same deal. So if we were going to do an aligned section, we would follow the axis here, and then we'd come out that direction, right? And if we would do that, we could look this direction, and that would cut away all that material, right? We'd be missing all that material, and you'd be looking. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw our section line, our cutting plane line in that area using a straight edge. We're going to carefully draw our cutting plane line. This will be a large, bold dashed line. And these have to go through the center of the circles, or it'll provide you some misinformation. We show our direction. And we want to go ahead and label it too. We'll call this A. Okay, so that means we've got our section cutting here. We're basically getting rid of all this material. Right, you're getting rid of all that, and we're just showing what you're looking at here along this line. And what we're going to do is we're going to unfold that, right? Kind of lay all that flat along the side of the page here. So first thing we'll do is just make sure we understand where is material and where is not material. And in order to do that, you can hatch, or you can just keep in mind where the holes are, right? So right here we have a hole drilled all the way through. And when we look here, notice on our side view, this hole does not go all the way through, right? It's only partially the way through, so we're not going to draw all the way through that. So we've only got two holes to show, this one here and here. Alright, so we've got our first basic step. We're going to take and we're going to project all of our horizontal lines here, and then I'm going to show you a trick on how to take this information at an angle, and we're going to unfold it and draw it straight across the bottom of the page here. So the first thing we're going to do is just check and align our projection lines, make sure everything's square. Notice you should be using a straight edge to get clean, crisp lines. When you're doing projection lines, you're going to be using a light 2H or a 4H. Here's a rib or a web. This will become important in a little bit. Notice we won't be cutting through that because it's cutting with the direction of the rib. This represents the center of the circle. Now we stop right there because these things are actually going to be laid out flat along the path here. Okay? And really what you want to know is if we do one half, we can just flip this entire half over and it'll be symmetrical, right? If we were to cut through here and unfold it, it would look the same. So we'll go ahead and we'll start to darken in the areas that we're cutting through. So the first area we're cutting through is this little bottom part of the plate, which is right here. We're going to follow the boundary that's already kind of been provided for us. And we want to show that area there, right? That's that little cut through. The next area we're cutting through is all along the side here, and then to this first kind of drilled hole. It's not all the way through. So that means we're going to follow this boundary all the way around, and we're just going to stop at the halfway point for right now. So we're going to start on the ground. I'm not going to cut through the web or the rib of the tool. Carefully make the curves on your drawing. Now we cut through the upper lip here. Now I've hit this bottom part, and I'm showing basically we're cutting through the upper ridge, and then we cut down, and we're going to show that underneath, that bottom material. Now everything we've done here is the exact same over here, right? All the same stuff is being cut through, it's just at an angle. Well, all we have to do is flip everything we've done here to the side. So that's why if you have these grid spaces, you're going to flip and show the grid spaces on the other side. Before we count those grid spaces, we'll do our projection lines. And the next thing we'll do is kind of count this section so we get our correct diameters. So we'll go 1, 2, 3 in that direction. Remember, because this is a center line, which is denoted with that symbol there. 1, 2, 3. So I'll make a dot there. We'll count up here and go back 3. Right, then we go 2 more. So I'm just going to fill in some of this information. 2 back, 1 down. 1 down. Don't forget about these curves. This point is so here I'm just finding those points again. Don't forget that projection line that could help you, maybe from over here. Found the hole, and then it goes 1.5 over, 1.5 up. So now I've kind of created that plotted points of the whole outline, but I need to duplicate what has been shown here on this side carefully. So I'll start with my heavy lines that are being cut through. And I'm going to go right to showing the cut through the hole here, which stops the solid line, right? Remember, this heavy line I'm drawing is the material that's being cut, which should be shown as a 2B, 4B, something heavy. I've created the heavy cut lines. Now I'll make light object lines, which represent the back of the holes we're showing here, or the web. Alright, the web goes to right here. Okay, and then I'll show the outside. And don't forget your center lines, right? Those are always good to have. So I'll do long, short, long. And finally, we'll do our hatching. Do your hatching, you just want to make sure you keep a nice clean, straight edge. Try to evenly space them as best as you can. Only hatch the area between the heavy bold lines. This is where you want to be most careful, because if you don't pay attention, you'll hatch the wrong thing, and then you'll have to start over. Let's hope that doesn't happen. And then that would be your section A, right? And we could call that or title it as such. And that's your drawn, drafted section.